Hello, and welcome to this week's Marketing, Branding and Getting the Sale. Today we are talking all things business model. So let's do some quick introductions and we will dive into today's content. All right, so Jess, for anyone who doesn't know you, do you want to explain who you are and what it is that you do?
Good morning, everyone. So what do? I help businesses market the products. So almost half of businesses launch a product, launch a service, have got this passion about it. Maybe you're filling a gap in the market, maybe you've got a better solution for a problem, but then you struggle on marketing it, you struggle on showing up. Who do you show up to? What do you say? How do you do it? So that's the sort of things that I help my clients. And we make sure they've got a brand that has everything it needs to have profitable sales and marketing.
Fantastic, thank you. And I'm Una Doyle. I'm a business strategist and coach. My company is called Creative Flow. And here's what I'm about, is helping business owners to build a business that they could sell tomorrow, but probably don't want to because it's highly profitable, because they and their team members are in creative flow, having more fun. And thirdly, they get to make a bigger impact in the world. So if you want to know how I can do that and help businesses to double their profits in a very short space of time, send me a message, comment below, and I'll send you a video showing you how I can do that. All right, so today's topic is your business model working for you? So before we even kind of get into this, I want to talk about, well, what do I mean by the term business model? I think it's something that kind of scares people a bit. You know, they're kind of thinking, well, do I know what this is? Have I got it right? I don't know. What's your thoughts, Jess?
I think as well, there's so many different interpretations of it and so many different ways to create a business model and things like that. So there is, I definitely see that bit of confusion. And also that when we first do a business model, we're first starting out. So we have that little bit of fear, we have that little bit of scarcity. And then more often than not, I see businesses never touch it again and just kind of get carried away with the day to day. So no wonder that fear is attached to the business model. So yeah, I agree with that.
Exactly. Yeah. So here's a definition that I really like for a business model. So it describes the rationale of how an organization creates, delivers, and captures value. Right. That's by Strategizer, the people behind the business model canvas. But I think even for a lot of people looking at the business model canvas, they might find it a bit overwhelming. They're not quite sure what the different things mean. So here's how I break down what your business model is, because it's basically about, if you look at that, how an organization creates value. Well, what are the offers that you've got? What is it that you're actually, the next part is delivering. What is it you're actually delivering to clients, and then captures value? Well, how does that actually reflect on your finances and other kinds of value within that? So let's break it down into, number one, what is it that you sell? Number two, where and how do you sell it? Number three, who buys it? Number four, how do your clients find out about it? And number five, what do they pay, as in the pricing? How do you collect your money? How much does it cost you? And finally, how do you deliver? So number six, how do you deliver what you've sold so that your clients are happy? So it's everything that makes your business work. And I think it can be, I think a lot of people can use a lot of different terminology around it, but at the end of the day, that's what it breaks down to, but like Jess says, and I think this is one of the mistakes, there's three key mistakes that I see people making around their business model rather. One is that it's not cohesive. And quite often it is, because, as Jess said, people, they start up the business, they may or may not be thinking about their business model. Sometimes you got people who are coming from an MBA or something like that, and they're in that kind of startup mode with other partners and investors, and they will tend to actually really map out their business model. But for a lot of businesses, they don't really do that. They just start selling something and they're not even really thinking about who's buying it. And then, if they do good work, then, they will get word of mouth, they'll get referrals, they'll start growing. And then what often happens is that things are added into the mix without any real strategy behind it. and this is a problem. And I liken this to, if you imagine the basement of like a large hotel, conference center, some kind of big building. It might be a university or something. And imagine the basement of that with all the different pipes for the heating and water, and you got boilers and that. And it's kind of like every time the business owner has a new idea and decides to do something, it's like sticking a piece of pipe into that pipework. But then when they have another new idea, they stick that in, and then they stick another one in, and then they stick another one in. And next thing you know, you've got all these pipes where, the water is flowing out instead of flowing through. And this can happen, and it kind of creates, what I would call a leaky business model, where they're losing clients, they're losing opportunities, they're losing profit because that's pouring out of these pipes that aren't properly connected to each other. So we've got to make sure that you're actually actively looking at each part of the business model and making sure that it really fits together and is cohesive. So that's number one. The second part of it is something I talk about a lot, so your market dominating position. So part of that business model is, what do you sell? And where and how do you sell it, and who's buying it? Well, all of those things kind of factor into your market dominating position. And what I want you to really understand is your market dominating position is not just a strap line. That's a market dominating position statement, right? So something that encompasses what sets you apart from your competition. But what I find a lot of the time is that where people have actually come up with a market dominating, have come up with some kind of strap line, they're not necessarily looking at the operations of the business. Okay, so this is where, when you do this and kind of have it integrated with your business model, I think the vast, like 9 times out of 10, when I'm working with clients on their market dominating position, we're actually changing what they do or how they do it. We're refining things, we're adding more value, we're kind of really diving into, what is it that's actually going to make you be a monopoly in your client's eyes, in your prospect's eyes, that they're thinking, I'd be a fool to go anywhere else. So I think it's such an important part of your business model. And I spend a lot of time with my clients working on this. This is not something you can just whip out in an hour. It's like there's a lot of work, and there's a process behind doing this to get that, so that it actually makes a difference in your marketplace, and for your prospects and your clients, that they're really like, oh, they get me, they get my problems or my aspirations. This is the only business that I would consider going to for this. That's the position that you want to be in. And unfortunately, a lot of how marketing has been taught means that many people in the marketing world get this wrong, and it's not their fault. It's just how they've been taught, and they're taught how to work for bigger businesses, not smaller businesses, where we need to do things differently. And then the third mistake I see is not paying enough attention to the finances. So, in the early days of a business, quite often business owners will be, when someone says, can you do X? They'll go, yes. And they say yes to everything, and they'll take whatever money they can get for it. But what they're not necessarily looking at are 2 key components of this, which is, number one, is your pricing, and number 2 is your cost structure. So you've got to look at, you've got your overheads, and you've also got the cost of goods sold, or COGS, which is, what does it cost you to actually deliver to that client? Okay, where the more clients you have, the more those costs will go up. So it's not like your overheads that are fixed costs. They're sometimes known as fixed and variable costs, or your overheads and your cost of goods sold. And so a lot of the time people aren't getting into the finances enough. And actually, you could be selling less and making more money when you have this, done correctly. Okay, so this is often, I often can find, my fees for a whole year just by looking at this with clients. So again, this is a huge area. Particularly as a business grows, it's really easy, that they're adding on team members and softwares and different tools and things like that. So looking at all of these are the kind of three biggest mistakes I see people making. So, Jess, oh, by the way, for regulars, you might be wondering, where is Stephen? So Stephen's not with us this week. He's on holiday. He'll be back with us next week. So I just didn't remember that. So yes, Jess, what's your thoughts on these three mistakes?
The main thing that's coming in everything that you're saying is that clarity. The whole point of, the biggest thing that comes away from all this is that clarity. Like the amount of, times I've felt it as well, the amount of times I've had these conversations where people lose that clarity, you lose that focus, you kind of get caught up in, oh, I'll try this, I'll try that, and just forget to kind of review. So that clarity that comes off the back of everything that you said, I think is really powerful. So once you've got that clarity, you've got that certainty, you've got that confidence, and then that does brush across. I know you touched on price a little bit. I've been having conversations with businesses recently about having to put the prices up because cost of living is going up. It's costing them more to deliver on the products, to deliver on the services. But there's a fear that we have around increasing our prices, and we think that people might think we're increasing them because we're greedy, things like that, when that's not the case. So I know we're going off subject a little bit on price increase, but having that clarity just helps bring that confidence when it comes to making decisions like that.
Absolutely. And when there are changes in the world, we need to review our business models. So when the pandemic happened and lockdown happened, many businesses had to change their business model. They had to pivot. They had to look at other revenue streams or delivering to their clients differently. And so, and often, their cost structures changed around that as well. And it was really interesting the way how I noticed a lot of people, they moved things online and they dropped their pricing. But actually the value that they were delivering was just the same. So yeah, it's so interesting. And now, where we have a huge amount of inflation going on in many countries around the world, people need to be reviewing their business model again. And it's a great time to do that because, and not just at the finances part, but value, like that is key. The whole thing about that business model definition I shared was focused on value. And that's one of the reasons I really love it, because like when it comes to pricing, value is in the eye of the beholder, so you've really got to understand your customers. You've got to understand what is it that your clients really value. What are you maybe not delivering to them that they would really value? So I was working with somebody recently, working with a marketing services agency, and we pinpointed that actually their chosen niche, their chosen pocket of people, they would really value one thing that they'd never even considered incorporating into their offering. So they're now going to find partners to help them deliver that. And that is going to help them to really stand out amongst the competition, because of that. So there's a lot of things that you can do to make sure that you're, that you want to be tinkering and tweaking with your business model. It's not something that's done, it's just there and it's set. Like it needs to evolve as your clients evolve, as the economic landscape changes, as other kind of events happen that are impacting the world and how people see things, even how people perceive things, even if things haven't really changed very much. Perception is reality.
How often would you say to do a business plan, and how could you stop getting reactive to things too soon, or reactive to things too much too soon? What's your balance between them?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question, Jess. And there is a balance. You don't want to be flip-flopping in terms of your business strategy and direction at all. But I would say you want to be reviewing your business model every 6 to 12 months. In terms of planning, So we talked about that before. I'm a big fan of 90-day planning. However, kind of behind that, which I don't talk about a lot, just because it's getting into so much detail that I kind of, work on with my clients. There's got to be a longer term vision and longer term strategy behind those 90-day plans as well. So having a vision for where you want your business to be in 3 to 5 years, and then also in 10 years time, certainly for bigger businesses. I think for smaller businesses, it's a bit, like if it's just the business owner, I think that can be just too hard for them to comprehend. When a business is more established and they already have got at least their first team kind of growing, if not more, then they do need to be having longer term kind of direction and vision. But you might not necessarily know the how for that, because things change so much. But you want to know where you're going. That's pretty key. So, and I think, yeah, so there is that balance there. Has that answered your question, Jess?
Yeah, and also it's making me think of how your business models fits in within your overall business, because your business model can then, with my clients, we use the business model. They've got to create the brand, the brand guidelines, the brand structure, the brand foundations and strategies, and then that in time helps the marketing as well. But I think what I'd love your opinion on is people's maybe interpretation of doing the business model, maybe once every few years because they remember to do it every few years, but then looking at the marketing model or the marketing strategy every few months and kind of being reactive on that. Obviously without an updated business model, your marketing strategy and your marketing model isn't going to fit. So what advice or what opinion do you have on them too, and how they can fit in people's businesses?
The principle that I hold true to is business strategy first, marketing strategy second. Because if you're trying to create a marketing strategy when either the business strategy is non-existent or out of date or isn't working, then the marketing is going to fail, no matter how great somebody is at doing that marketing. So you've always got to start off with the business strategy first. And if you don't have a strong, cohesive business model, then the business strategy is just part of that. This is the thing, is like, I think it's people seeing them as distinct, separate. They're not. Your business model comprises your business strategy. It's all encompassing. So rather than seeing your business model as, oh, it's that piece of paper or that canvas that we created, a long time ago, it's like, no, this is like your business lives and breathes the model that you have. And if you're not getting the business results that you want, it may well be because something in your business model is flawed. Because everything comes out of that. So is that going to help?
I agree. And I think it's really good to map that out and make that clear, because the amount of times that I see businesses struggling with the marketing and, being burnt by marketing, and I've spent this and I've spent that, and, and not getting any results. And I do feel for you, because it's a horrible situation to be in, but we need to take a few steps back, don't we? So I like that you kind of just made that distinction, definitely.
It's a whole thing about foundations, and foundations is one of the 5 steps that I use to help clients to double their revenues. And it's like, I think it's the kind of thing that isn't as sexy as, oh, let's look at this method of generating leads, or or even brand. Is that people love branding, but like if they don't have the foundations right for their business, then how can they get a brand that's going to work for them? So how are they going to have the right lead generation strategy? I mean, and I see this time and time again, where people, like, they have an offer, but then they're trying to sell it to people who can't afford it. I see that a lot in kind of the kind of solo and micro businesses, because they're kind of they maybe haven't been in business long enough, or they haven't figured out why they're not able to grow past a certain point. Well, it's because they're actually trying to sell something to the wrong audience. So they either need to change their offer or they need to change the audience. They can't carry on doing that. Um, so yeah, it's a I love all this stuff. I love to be able to dive deep into this and really figure out, well, what is it that's going on? And if you think about it, as part of your planning, to be able to create a revenue plan, so well, I want to sell X amount of this and Y amount of that, and to have that kind of timed, like, you want a revenue plan that's based on your offers and your activity. And if you don't have clarity on those things, and what's going to bring you the results that you want in your business, then that's not going to help. And part of this as well is, like, how do you deliver what you've sold? Well, some of that, and and where and how do you sell it? Like, there's various different elements in that. Like, what are the assets that you have in your business? And those assets might be team members, or those assets might be a marketing funnel. Um, it might be a sales process that you have in place. So when you get these kinds of things up and running and set for you, maybe it's an onboarding process, maybe it's the way that you have some of your finances automated. So it's often the people and the systems and the elements that you create in your business. And a lot of the time when I see business owners that are exhausted, that are working too many hours, regardless of how many people they hire or have on their own teams, is quite often because they're not creating these kinds of assets that work for them in their business over and over again, and that either happen in an automated way and or are being done by the people in the business. And so I think that's, yeah, it's really key with that, to if you're working too many hours, there's probably something in your business model that isn't working the way that you want, really. So yeah. So morning, Jonathan. So Jonathan's saying morning, Jess.
Morning. Yeah, I think something that you touched on at the beginning as well with the research, your consumer research, because when we're doing a business model, it is quite easy to be focused internally, isn't it, and focus on what's going on for us, what's changing in our world, and we can kind of forget what's actually changing for our audience and our consumers. Yeah. So I think keeping that research up, because even times are changing anyway, no matter what's happening in the world. So what was working for our consumers, what our consumers wanted 10 years ago, is definitely not what they want now. So looking at, okay, I might have been in business 10, 20 years and I'm fine, I'm still standing, but we've got to still keep researching and keep looking in of what's going on in the world of our consumers, not just what's going on in our world. So I think that that part of research was a really crucial bit that you mentioned.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, hi, Jonathan. I'm showing the wrong thing here. Sorry for making you dizzy. So Jonathan is just saying, great topic of conversation and some brilliant points. Thank you. Yeah, I think it's such an important one, yet it's the kind of thing that often is skipped over in the face of more sexy things, because it's really interesting, actually. This is the work, this kind of foundational work, the strategic work, is actually the hardest work that business owners can do. Yet it's the one that gives them the biggest return on investment. I think
what would you say? Well, I was just going to say, what would you say with people that are thinking, this all sounds absolutely amazing, this all sounds great, yes, I definitely need to look into this, but how am I going to find the time to do it? I do this, I do that, I'm trying to manage and organize people that I'm onboarding, I'm already kind of jumping on my laptop in the evening. What about them people that just don't have the time to do this? What's your advice? What's your
a lack of time is always a great excuse. No, it's true. It's true. When people want to do something, they will find the time. Now, one of the first things I often do when I'm working with clients who are like that is I will work with them to free up the time, because I guarantee you at least 20 to 30% of what they're spending their time on is a waste of time. It's not getting them the results that they want. So they can immediately stop doing those things and focus instead on working on the business instead of in the business. It's and that's why, with the ignition profiling tool that I use, helping them to understand how to be in flow. And that's actually one of the things I've not even mentioned, is that you want to make sure your business model is aligned to the business owner or owners, to make sure that you're building a business that has you more in flow as it grows instead of less in flow, which is actually what happens with a lot of business owners. So that's really key. So, a lot of the time people are able to immediately ditch or delegate some of the things that they're doing because they realize, wow, okay, yeah, my time is best spent here. And then for the business owners who might be at the very early stages and they go, well, I can't afford to delegate anything. It's simply a matter of prioritizing, and you still need to ditch. Because the trouble is that if you're trying to do all the things, like if you're in the very early stages of business, focus on one offer, one audience, and you want 2 to 3 means of generating prospects, the right kind of prospects. That's it. That's all you really need to focus on at that very early stage of business. Anything else that you're doing outside of that. And I think part of the problem is I see a lot of, okay, I know we're here on social media. But the thing is that there's a lot of business owners that seem to believe, because they're told it on social media, that social media is the only way to grow their business. And they're trying to be these content creation machines, and they're doing all this stuff that isn't getting them clients. Now, can businesses get clients through social media? Absolutely. I've had inquiries from doing these lives, but I also have everything to back that up. I have assets in my business. I can send videos. I have marketing assets. I have sales processes that kind of make all this stuff work. But in the early stages of the business, they don't have that. And in fact, actually, even a lot of more established businesses, they, sometimes businesses are successful more accidentally than by design. And then quite often they get really stung when there's a change in their landscape. All of a sudden they've got more competitors, or just these kind of life situations, economic situations, changes in industries, and they get caught out. So yeah, I know I've gone slightly off track and on a tangent there.
I was going to say something as well, and it's completely gone. So I'm sure it'll come back to me. But for those of you that haven't seen the ignition profile, and we only did that not so long ago, didn't we? A few weeks ago.
Yeah.
So I'll find a link to that and I'll put it in the comments as well. So you can look back at some of the other videos we've done to help some of this stuff that we're talking about be a bit more clear as well. But yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, it's really interesting because it just makes such a difference when you can create a business that's in flow for you. Then that's fantastic. And so, what's in flow for me? I love doing videos. I love doing speaking. I love live things. That's really exciting and works great for me. But that's not what might work for somebody else. So it's about, understanding what works for you. And then as your business grows, the things that you're not so great at, you just hire in, but over time you get to do all the different things that, make your business grow. So, and if you want to look at, some of those strategies, then booking a call with me, I can show you. I've got an amazing tool where I can show you how you can double your profits very, very, just by making small changes in your business. And it's fascinating. I showed it to somebody last week and they were like, kind of, whoa, this is like so compelling. I have never seen this before. And so, yeah, absolutely. It's very, very powerful indeed.
It is a great tool. So I do encourage people to reach out to you to have a look at that. I remember what it was I was going to say now. It was making sure everything's got a strategy. So we can jump into things, can't we? When you're talking about social media, that's what triggered it in my mind. Jumping onto social media, or doing lives because everyone seems to be doing them, or doing newsletters because it seems to be the thing to do. Doing ads, I need to do ads. I don't know, everyone just seems to do it, but we need a strategy behind everything that we do, whether it is any of that stuff, even in marketing. You know, it'd be really interesting to know how many people watching actually have a strategy when networking. You know, when you're turning up somewhere, what do you do before? What do you do during that event? What do you do after it? You know, we've spoken about this before as well, but anything that you're doing in your business, is there a strategy behind it? And is there a purpose behind it? Because we can so easily get caught up, you know, it's in our minds to follow, you know, subconsciously we like to follow. It's kind of a just a habit and a behavior that's wired in our nature. So we do naturally just jump onto trends and jump onto things and jump onto what other people are doing. But sometimes we do need to ground ourselves, look logically and go, right, okay, this does look like a great idea, but how can I build a strategy around it? And is it right for me? And is it right for my purpose?
Exactly.
So yeah.
This is where, you know, get help. I think sometimes people have this idea of, yeah, and it's probably a hangover from school days, you know, where everybody was doing their work and kind of like, oh, no one can look at my work, and we're trained in education to do things on our own, and it is good, of course, to be independent. I'm not saying that, you know, we shouldn't be independent adults. Of course, we ought to be. However, I think sometimes that makes people think that if they need help, that it's a weakness, and it isn't. Like, just look at Olympic athletes. You know, they don't kind of win nationals and then go to the Olympics and fire all their coaches because, oh, I've got to where I want to be now. No, they double down. They get more or better coaches, or they spend more time with the coaches that they have that are working. And it's the same with businesses. You know, that's, you know, to have coaches and consultants in different areas that can help them is really powerful, and it just helps to have that outside perspective. So one of the sayings you might have heard me say before is, you can't read the label from inside the bottle. Just having that outside perspective is immensely valuable. You know, we just like, and I have it with my coaches where I'm going, oh yeah, and it's so obvious when something's pointed out to you, but it's just not always obvious to us when we're in the situation. You know, it's always easier for someone else to be able to see. So I think that's probably one of the biggest mistakes that SME businesses make. Excuse me. Oh, excuse me. Apologies, I didn't even get a chance to mute myself. So yeah, you know, don't be afraid to get help, because if you're working with the right people, it's not a cost, it's an investment that you're going to see a return on. So yeah, that's, you know, whoever it is, like, hopefully be me or be Jess or both of us, you know, but you know, whoever that is, please, you know, work with whoever resonates with you, you know, in the area that you feel, actually, yeah, I could do with some help on this. And it's interesting, like so I'm part of a big coaching network, and recently I did, you know, some further development with them, and it was brilliant because I just very consciously, because there was some stuff I was doing that in one way felt a bit basic for me because I'd already done this so many times with my clients and things. But I just thought, you know, right, just be totally open-minded and just soak up everything. And there were just some like little nuances that were like, yeah, that'll help me to do a better job for my clients and this. And, you know, it's, you know, we just always, if we're always open to learning, to growing, if we have that growth mindset, then it's amazing what a difference those things can make for ourselves and in our businesses.
Yeah, I love that. And even thinking, because a lot of people might be scared to take that step to ask for help, or, you know, scared to take that step to get a coach, a consultant, someone to come in and help them from that outside perspective. But why should we try and find the way ourselves? You know, if we were driving somewhere and we got lost because the road signs ended and we didn't know where we were going, we wouldn't just aimlessly drive around, you know, trying to figure it out. You know, it might take us a few days to get there. We might stop and we'd ask someone and say, oh, I'm looking for X place. Do you know where it is? Do that within your business. Why aimlessly, you know, strolling through it? Why not just stop and
because I
Yeah.
remember as a teenager getting so mad at my father. God bless him. He passed away a number of years now, but I remember getting so mad at him because we were lost and he wouldn't ask anybody. And again, we were out in the countryside, and so there wasn't that many people around, and I was kind of like, ask them, and then he'd drive past, and he was determined to find his own way, and it's like, what a silly attitude, you know. um it's like, get out of your own heads, like whatever it is that you need help with, whether it's this kind of stuff or something else. If there's something that you're not getting the results you want, or like even if you're getting great results, imagine with the help of the right expert how you could exponentially increase those results, and that's, yeah, it's I think that's actually probably one of the interesting things, because like with your business model, there's so many different areas around it, that I think, getting that business thinking behind it is so important. If you get that right, then you can, finesse and fine tune all the elements within it, but that foundational structure behind it is what can really help you to grow a real business. Okay, if you're in a situation where the business you have, you can't sell it, then the chances are you're more self-employed than running a business. Okay. I'm still in this situation myself. I'm actively growing things. I'm actively building a team. I'm actively, creating things so that I will, and even if you think, well, I don't want to sell my business, let me tell you that creating a business you could sell is a better business than one that you can't. And it's also a business that you're able to take time from. It's a business that's more profitable. It's a business that's making a bigger impact on your clients. So why wouldn't you want to do that?
I'm going to say, even if you don't want to sell your business, 9 times out of 10, when I talk to people about this, they say, well, I just want my business to be able to run without me for even just a couple of weeks,
Yeah,
and I can go away,
exactly.
turn off my phone, and not have to come into it.
Mm,
So the definition of well, not the definition, but if you want to sell your business has got to be able to run without you. So if you sell your business and you're the one that's operating it, then it's not exactly that person that's buying it is not going to get
exactly.
anything. So yeah, whether you want to sell it or not, you still want your business to run on its own. I follow Jenna Kutcher a lot. I just find her quite inspirational, and I love following her content. And she took a month out in August this summer, so last month, and she just took that time out to spend with her kids and spend on her family. And she's doing all this content about saying how she's been working up towards the years to creating a business that she can just take a month out and come back and everything's been running just as smoothly. So that, even if you want to sell a business or not, that is a goal. That's an ultimate dream for a lot of people that set out to be self-employed or set out to start their own business. So,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, listen, I think there's so much that we could talk about this. However, we have to be mindful of letting people get back and get working on their businesses, and us doing the same. So I think we'll leave it there for today, but please pop your questions down below, or send us a DM. We'd be happy to hear from you. Yeah, any final thoughts, Jess?
Not really. I think we've covered quite a lot. But I suppose if you're going to do anything off the back of watching this, soak up some information, reach out to some people, start asking questions, start looking outside of your own mind for some answers. Just start talking to people. That's
exactly. Yeah. Fantastic. Right, we'll be back here same time next week. We will see you then. Bye for now.
Bye, everyone. See ya.